Hey guys, this is Jake. This week we're talking with Danny Ray from Sandbar Leather Company. Real quick before we get into the video, just want to let you guys know that all the products we talked about last week with Matt Putty are now on the website. They are under the MCN Designs category. This includes your molding tools, your molds for valet trays, and your tool rests. Make sure to check them out on our website. The link will be below. And now, into the video.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is George and Jake at EDC Leather. Today we're talking to Danny Ray down in Hughes Springs, Texas, Sandbar Leather Company. How you doing, brother?
Good, brother. How are you?
I'm trying to behave myself. We actually ended up as holster makers having quite a bit of history.
Oh, yeah.
Before we even knew each other. Because Lowell Harvey.
I met Lowell 25 years ago. And he would show me some stuff, but I wasn't ready to receive it. And he moved down here, and I was trying to do things on the weekends and in the wintertime when I wasn't working. And he showed me some more stuff. But the main thing he did is he introduced me to you, and lots of midnight, 1 o'clock phone calls. And
I remember. I
went a couple months through the phone.
I went a couple months and my eyes stayed red half the time because I wasn't getting sleep. But we had a lot of fun, brother.
Oh, yeah. It was great. I wouldn't trade it.
And I have not managed to do it down there sometime, but we are going to make it down there to go hog hunting with you.
You got to come on.
I am not.
We got dogs and we got knives.
I'm not jumping in there with a knife.
Oh, yeah. It's the only way to go, Jordan.
All right, Danny. So, I've not made it down there hog hunting yet, but I'm not doing a knife and dogs. I'm happy with a firearm at a distance so they can't eat me, okay?
Well, you can start that way. We'll get you there.
I'm old, I'm slow, and I pee too much. Okay?
Me too.
All right, so when... I know you did it. You were doing a full-time seasonal job where you were out of town all the time.
Yeah, we were out of town 8 months a year.
Yeah, and you were a little bit of a wild hare back then, doing a bunch of things. But you came back, decided you were going to get involved in growing your leather work, okay? And as I understand, you told me that you went to order some business cards, and it changed your life.
I went to order business cards because the business was picking up. Met a woman that did my business cards. And we went on a first date, and she shared her testimony, decided right then and there that I needed to go to church because of her. And she pulled me right out of where I was at. I mean, I had some things looming over my head, and we got all them worked out. We met in May and married in July, and
started going to church.
Never look back.
That is fantastic, brother.
She was in the process of moving her shop, and there was a little bitty room up there with a big old safe in it. And she said, "Do you want to come up there and hang out and do your leather work?" And I was like, "Sure, that sounds good." And the minute we opened the door, there was no looking back.
A public shop, oftentimes you will learn more about leatherworking in a public shop. When people come through the door wanting stuff, then you'll learn in years of working in your own shop without, just selling away and not having people walk in.
I agree. Lowell told me, he said, "Dan, you're going to learn more in the first 2 years of having a brick and mortar shop." He said, "Than I could teach you in 10 years, not with the public." And he was right. You have to be ready for everything that walks in the door. I've covered stirrups. I've made pocket protectors, everything.
So what was some of the coolest things that you had to make that you had no idea about?
A guy came in with a handmade stirrup. It was made out of all aluminum, and he wanted it covered in leather, and it was very offset because he had a prosthetic boot on. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever built.
But it worked.
It worked.
And you learned from it.
Oh,
so this was not like covering up a wood syrup with a slat on it. This was full out custom to handle the prosthetic that he had to wear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
It it was like 11 inches wide and 15 inches tall. I mean, it was huge.
holy smokes.
Yeah, it was
That
huge.
is
And
crazy.
that was within the first couple months, and I was like, man, this is terrible.
And then but you had a pretty, like I said, you weren't quite ready to hear it yet. So now when you talk to Lowell, you're you have a new perspective on what he tells you, but you did come to the school of the Magic 5/8.
Yes, yes. I knew half inch and 5/8 uh, by heart. And anybody that knows Lowell knows that if you cannot draw a half inch or 5/8 line without a ruler,
Oh, he will smack you with the ruler.
find a different trade.
Yeah, he'll
You
take it away
find a
from you.
different trade.
But on the single action army, those are incredibly important measurements.
Well, and I had come to a boot camp, to the advanced boot camp. The Taco 200 was my first class, and then we went to a class that Lowell did with you, and everything was 5/8 and half inch. Well, the first class I got, there was numbers, lots of numbers, and I thrived on it. And then we broke it all down to half inch and 5/8, and if you tell me something works because it works because you've done it for 40 years, I understand that, but I still need the science behind it.
Well, yeah. Well, see, remember, Lowell's working with one primary firearm, which will be the single action army. And he has those numbers memorized, but then as a public shop, you're building for single stack semis, double stacks, 40
Everything.
caliber, 10 millimeter, everything all the way down the board. So it gets a little crazy.
Oh yeah. I think when I opened the shop, I had 5 blue guns, and now I'm over 50. And it's because
And
them are the
growing every
popular
day.
pictures. Every day. We're growing every day.
Yeah. So now are you doing, holster making, because from memory, it's kind of where you wanted to start, but now you go in public shop. So what other kind of products are you expanded into?
Well, we do a lot of belts. You had told me belts was where the money's is, and I fought you because nobody needs something 1.5 inches wide with that much time invested in it, and belts is my number 2 item.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And of course, there's so many, from a single layer to a lined car belt to a full double layer carry belt. In fact, I think I see one over there on your bench.
Yes.
So walk me through this belt.
So this is a 910 top. This is a 4.5 lining leather with a heavy duty pipe hanging plastic down the center. This belt, it's unforgiving.
So, I mean, this is what we call a reinforced belt. It lets you go a little bit thinner on the leather, okay? And by using that hinge-rated polyethylene, which, like what Danny just said, guys, that is the gray pipe hanger that you can get at Menards or anything of that nature. We're gonna do a quick video here in the future showing you how to relax that liner out and how to place it in the belt and get it to go. You'll hear some guys putting some Kydex, or they're trying to put Kydex in, which breaks. They try to put steel, which kinks or rusts. We found this to be the best product: weight, strength, flexibility, to work, and it's dirt cheap.
Well, and the thing we do is when we come in, when we glue them all together, I take my holster boning tool and I bone down the edges of that so that you're getting a nice crease look on that, and it keeps it from walking around.
Yeah, and you saw my new fancy machine. It's going to press that into it.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
When you come up here, I'll let you touch it.
Well, I know. Everybody gets cool toys.
I hear you. Well, that one there is that's what I want to hear.
I do so many belts. I actually just invested in the belt edger.
The Weaver Easy Edger?
Yes, we got
a fantastic tool.
Man, it was so our shop, I tell everybody that we were built by budget, and it's because God puts things in our right in our way, so we can't get past them. And he put that edger right in my way, and the guy worked with me, and I got it for phenomenal price. You're not going to beat $250, and it'd been used twice.
Yeah, yeah. And the cool thing about that is you rotate those little wheels, and then you flip them over, rotate them again, and you get 12 different fresh edges. And I think they sharpen them for you again. I could be wrong.
Yeah, they'll sharpen them. You just mail them in.
Yeah, the thing to remember, though, on the Weaver Easy Edger, guys, they have wheels size 1, 2, and 3. And if you're doing a bunch of 8 to 10 ounce belts, you need one size. And if you're going to be doing 16 ounce carry belts, you need another size. So something to be aware of on that. But there's actually, I don't know if Dave Peterson of Peterson Custom Leather was telling me once, when he first got one of those, he got the one that does all 4 sides at once. And he said
it's a dream.
Oh, yeah. He said they were pulling so many belts through that when he first got it, because he was doing a bunch of tack and strap work as well. They got it hot enough you couldn't touch it, just hand pulling it through it.
Oh, yeah. I do a lot of work with Dave. We have he took me on and mentored me. You made that introduction. I can never repay you enough for making that introduction. David Peterson has been instrumental in the growth of our business to point. He's not even a friend anymore. He's family. He tells people he adopted me.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know a way you can pay me back, and that would be 10 o'clock chocolate cake.
Yeah, she's in the background laughing about that.
Yeah, this girl loves this man so much that she will make him chocolate cake at 10 o'clock at night. And I want in on that chocolate cake.
I have no need for it whatsoever, but she'll do it. She will.
Yeah. Okay, so, but is holsters remained your primary push at your shop?
It is, because we're so busy now. I mean, I'm at a 16-week lead time. You come in today, and in 16 weeks, I'll start your project. And we're at such a lead time now, we're going to start phasing out the one-of-a-kinds, because in the beginning, I wanted to be a custom shop, and now I need to be half custom and half production, because I've got so many irons in the fire. You know, we're on Etsy and things like that. So we're going to start phasing out, some of the things that take too much time to engineer, and we're focusing on belts, holsters, wallets, and knife sheaths. And then, there's a lot to them.
Absolutely staying in the accessory market.
Yes.
And the flat goods, that would be the belts, the wallets, exactly. And we call them flat goods because they are flat and assembled flat. Whereas a holster, a lot of times you have to manipulate, depending on the style you're doing. But what I'm looking for is when you started out and you're doing full-on custom, there are some amazing custom makers out there that make a great living doing what they do. Okay.
Yes.
But then for a lot of us, when now you have a family, you got a pass full of kids, and you got to feed them kids, you've got to keep a steady cash flow. Now, the thing is cash flow is not the same as net profit.
No.
Two different things. So when rent comes up and utilities and the grocery bill and all that, we have to be able to, you've got to have $2,000 in your hand on the 28th of the month because checks are going out, and that's cash flow.
Yeah. And see, 5 teenagers.
Yes. So there's some sanity money there as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we're trying to funnel it down. I took some advice from you and Andrew, Kalis, and Dave. So we've started dabbling in the gun show market.
Hang on. I'm trying to figure out where I was.
The direction of our shop.
Yeah, the direction
of our shop.
So
we've started taking advice of several mentors I have. I've been blessed to have some of the best to me, the best in the business mentor me. You, Lowell, Dave Peterson, Andrew Kalis. I mean, the people I've had be instrumental in my life. So we're starting to gear towards the gun show, and I pick them up, and that's been its own different monster, because you'll have a gun show where you do really good, and you'll go back there 2 months later, and you won't sell. You'll make tables.
Okay, so at a gun show, we did gun shows for quite a while, and that's the next transition step, I think, to going into full production, like on the wholesale side, things of that nature. It really gets you out there a lot, but also that gun show itself, those other vendors are looking at you and talking to you.
Yeah, we've picked up. We're currently talking to 3 gun shops and 1 knife shop about getting holsters in there, and they're just waiting on this economy to, cut them a little slack, and they're going to bring us in. They like the product, they love the quality that we're giving them. Not a lot of people around here are giving them what I'm giving them, because there's not a lot of hardcore holster makers in my area. So we've been able to just snatch that part of the market up really quick.
Well, and when you're on the social media and you're hanging out on the holster maker sites, you're thinking there's holster makers everywhere. But there's really not. If you look at the ones that are active and are building a lot to the public, on the guys of our level, not the guys that are way up there, you know what I mean? But so you've got some gun shops working with you?
Yes, we've got some guys that seen us at the gun shows, and they come in and they talk to me about my holsters, and listening to the people talk, they're like, well, you know what you're talking about. And I was like, well, if you had understood how I was trained, there's things you have to know before you just build a holster. You gotta be able to know what the customer wants, whether they know it or not. So
right. And as holster makers in the retention holster market, we really depend a lot on our leather to do a lot of work for us.
You bet.
And what have you found out? Because I know you've gone through, I believe you started with, you showed me your first holster earlier. Show that to me.
Yeah.
Let me bring that up. Okay, so where did you get that leather, buddy?
So this is your typical Tandy leather, and it's delaminated, and there's no, there's molding, but there's no, there's no retention.
But it lasts for a while, and then it goes away.
Yeah, it was okay for about 6-8 months, but your daily carry, it breaks that down because the leather is just completely different. But now you come over to my Herman Oak, and there's no crush.
Herman Oak provides us so much structure. Wicket and Craig's other fantastic leather. Both of those are tanned in America. The only 2 tanneries left in America. So
yeah, I've never had the pleasure of using Wicket and Craig yet. I heard it's a dream to carve on, and you know me, George. I used to think I needed to carve everything. Now I'm like, I don't want to carve nothing, but I do. I carve every day.
Yeah.
That's something Dusty had told me. He's like, you'll get some experience. You will. If you sit down and everybody that walks into your shop wants something, you get a lot of practice quick. So that's what I tell people that struggle. They look at my carving and they're like, yeah, that's good. And I'm like, yeah, I don't see it, but it is,
I think it's good. Everybody does. I think you've got some carved belts there that are getting ready to go out, don't you?
I do. Hang on one second. Rebecca, could you hand me that belt? My carved one. I do have this. We're going to give it away.
Oh.
Yeah.
Exactly how many of those do you have to build in order to have one to give away?
Well, this is the 4th one because I keep trying to give it away. And my little brother seen the first one and he's like, send that to Oklahoma. Well, then David Peterson come down and I was like, you need to go home with this. And so this is the 4th one. And
I'm going to put dibs on that one.
Well, there you go. So I guess it's 5. I will mail that to you,
So
George.
that is actually no. You're going to mail that to whoever wins it. What
Yeah,
we're going to do is 1 week after this podcast posts. So we post every morning at Saturday at 8 a.m. Okay, the next Saturday morning, everybody that puts a comment on the video will throw their name in a hat, and then we'll mail it to them, and I'll pay the shipping for you, Danny. I'll pay the
that'll
shipping.
work.
You do the nice sheath. Somebody wins it, and that nice sheath handles what?
It handles a case trapper standard size, which is 4 1/8 or smaller. So
Yeah. Now
it
that's not normal basket weave. That's hand carved basket weave, right?
yeah, that's hand cut. Rebecca had been telling me, you got to try this, you got to try it, you got to try it. So I sat down and I was like, okay. So I tried it, and
Now you need to listen to that girl, right?
yeah, she's always got good advice. I'm just hard headed, you know.
So let me see this belt. Now this is a belt getting ready to go out to a customer, or
Yes.
okay. Now you kind of hold still there for a minute. All right. So nice classic design there. Is this getting pretty close to being done, or
Yeah, I just need some edge work. Got to finish the edges on it. As you can see,
okay?
they're fuzzy. We got to go in and put some edge coating on them and wax them down.
Yep. Now a belt like that, and this is a production belt. And this is your production. You carve what unusual 4 patterns?
I right now I'm up to 16. I'm carving
16 different
16 patterns.
patterns. I think you need to
Yes.
shrink that down a little bit, buddy. Kind of get yourself narrowed down to maybe 5, 6 patterns,
Well, I'm
and then
pushing
each year bring a new one on.
I'm pushing 5 out and bringing 5 more in, so I'm keeping about 10.
Keeping about 10 on average. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that'll work well. That also gives you a carving pattern that as you're developing your own that you can sell.
Yes. Yeah, we just bought some new drafting tools, and it's to help me lay out belts so that I can stop purchasing patterns. For those that can't draw by patterns, I buy a lot of patterns, and that's the area of my work that I need to work on.
Now,
So
you're going to be able to draw pretty soon. Have you seen the stuff Price Reynolds has been doing?
I'm actually getting the first set of tools. Me and a guy named Trevor.
Is he going to put your name on them?
They already got my name on them.
So, Danny, you bought a lot of our templates over the years. And in fact, I think you bought one of the first ones that we had made, and so we put your name on it.
The very first Cobra sling, before y'all even did the video, I had mine at home. Actually, if you'll look when y'all did the video, it's my tools being used because I bought the first set.
Had your name on it.
They had our company name.
And has those Cobra rifle slings done you well?
I make about 20, 25 a year, and it's always around Christmas time.
Yes.
We get them, probably they start about September.
Mm-hmm.
And, because with 4-month lead, you say 16 weeks and people think, oh, that's not very long. You say 4 months and they're like, wow. And it's the same time. But they do good for us around deer season.
So, the rifle slings do us great. Then we do a lot of them immediately after deer season with dates on them and things like that as well. And did you ever do that thing that I suggested to you about carving the fellow's rack from the picture? Carving the rack of the deer and putting it on a deer skull?
What we do is we pull, if they'll bring us a good picture, because my wife's a graphic designer, she'll get everything digitized for me, and then she'll size it exactly where I need it, and we just take it to it.
So what it means, guys, is you hold that deer head up for a good photograph and get a picture of that rack, and then at Sandbar Leather, they will actually trace that rack out, size it right, and carve your deer's rack on your rifle sling. Or I guess on a wallet too, wouldn't you?
Yeah, wallet. We'll carve it on about anything that they'll buy except a holster. When I started, I carved on a lot of holsters, and I would use a little bit thicker leather so I didn't feel like I was losing anything. But we'll do it on reinforcement panels and things like that.
Yeah, On a
Your
retention
clicking shit's
holster, we're asking so much of that leather. We're really torturing it to mold and all that. So then if we cut through that outer layer of it, we've killed a lot of what we did. But
yeah.
like if you see like Peter Main's modeling tools, I've seen some fantastic holster work being done. And to my eyes, just looking at a picture, you can't tell it's not carved.
Yeah, it's the modeling tool work that they're doing now. I've just uh started doing a lot of that. Steve Yezik and his sunflowers brought out my modeling tool because he brings so much life to his carving. I wanted to do that, and it's a lot of modeling tool work, which I don't know if that's harder or if it's harder to, you know, shade and carve. But it will bring a lot of life to any carving for
But that
sure.
absolutely protects that outer layer of the holster from being cut with a knife and then spreading, weakening, and things of that nature. So I think that pure modeling, spoon work, and tooling can do a great job. But like you said, change the size of your reinforcement, you know, panel and use
Yeah,
it for art.
yeah. I mean, we did some clicking ships. We get some from y'all up at EDC Leather, and the reinforcement panels are perfect for carving. You get plenty of room to do initials, to do, you know, we recently bought a laser so you can laser engrave on them. I mean, it just works out.
It's not quite big enough, I think, for a full floral, but
No,
we have done for a few companies where they redrew the entire reinforcement panel, and then we bought a clicker die, and now theirs come that way for the guy that does a lot of decorating. Also, lets him fully customize that holster. So,
right. Well, and the way we went towards customizing is we carry a lot of different colored threads, and you know, some of that going back to, you know, God putting things in your way. He put a lot of exotic in my hands at a very reasonable rate. So we were able to get into the exotic inlay and overlay really cheap. I believe I've sent a lot of people some, uh, and we're still blessed with more than I can use.
oh, if you
We
have
did.
more than you can use, you can absolutely send some my way.
I just got beaver crust from you, beaver tail crust.
Isn't that cool?
I'm excited to use it. I had never used none.
We have
Uh,
that crazy deal on it that we're able to sell them for like $5. Now, it does not compare to from Hagel, from Sarah Hagel, to her
yeah,
vegetable tan tails. I mean, those you can actually mold and all that. But those are 30 to $40. This is $5. When they run
yeah.
out, they run out though. I mean, that was just a
And
crazy deal, and I got it.
if you're using it on reinforcement panels and you know your Avenger pieces, there's more than enough there, and you can do what you want. And it airbrushes. I love doing dye work, so that's where we customize. We do exotic, we do fancy colored thread, and we do a lot of airbrush work. This has all three.
What in the world are you doing there? All right, walk me
So
through this rig.
I'm a camouflage guy, so I learned this technique from Andrew, and it's you're airbrushing and layering colors in because this is actually the natural color of the leather.
Okay.
We're bringing another layer of color in, and then a layer of brown and a layer of green, and then the black breaks up the patterns, and then you've got the decorative thread, and then everybody knows what that is. That's a good old elephant.
Good old elephant.
This is the nicest holster I make. It's got everything that we offer: the custom airbrush, the custom sewing, and the best exotic there is.
What's a rig like that retail for?
A rig like that runs for 165,
But it's on a 16-week lead.
16 weeks.
So
16 weeks. And you pick your colors, you pick whatever, and we'll build you one.
fantastic, fantastic. And when we finish this up, in the show notes, we'll have all your social media contacts, your emails. We'll have every way they need to get a hold of you. Now let's talk about some market channels. You say you're doing some gun shows. Okay.
Yes.
How else do you market your products?
Uh, we've recently started an Etsy store. We're growing it. Uh, Becca is in the process of building our website, which will be sandbarleather.com. And then we're on Etsy. Like I say, we have TikTok. I've been doing quite a few TikTok lives, and it's grown our followers a little bit. But the majority of our leather work we push out through Facebook, which is what we're trying to push away from.
And why are you trying to push away from it if it's working?
Well, it's working, but uh, my views and their views, and they don't always see eye to eye. Uh, Not a big fan of data mining and things like that.
Okay, so have you found that they are um, killing some of your posts you put out, or you need to work on the wording of it, or?
It's all in the wording. They're not a fan of knife sheaths. They're not a fan of holsters. We found that out on Etsy. My Etsy holsters are actually under toys.
Oh
She
my.
puts my holster, and my knife sheaths are under for toys. For toy knives and toy guns.
Okay.
That, and they'll let it fly right in. I spoke a little bit with Dan Collins, and him and you had
Well,
helped me.
Dan experienced that problem that a lot of people did about a year and a half ago, when Etsy decided that rifle slings were illegal. And they said
Yeah,
it's an illegal product, and they put some people out of business.
yeah, they put a hurting on a lot of people. They went through and did a cleansing, so to speak, of things kind of Southern, Confederate flags, anything. I call it gun paraphernalia, you know,
Okay.
uh, uh, Southern, just a lot of stuff like that. They went through and cleansed that.
Mm-hmm.
It hurt a lot of makers. It did. We were
It,
able to skip around that.
so you were blessed in that, that's for sure. So
Very.
I guess the takeaway from this is you constantly have to be working on various sales channels. Like I
Oh,
call
yeah.
the bucket system. You always have to have an empty bucket that you've not filled up yet, ready to go. Because if you have all your eggs in one basket and they jerk that thing away from you, there you go.
Yeah, and right now, probably 80%, I'd say 70 to 80% of our business is walk-in traffic. And for people that don't own a brick and mortar, when you're dependent upon people walking through your door, you have to worry about location. You have to worry about having a sick day, because if I'm not here and somebody shows up, that's a bad first impression. You know, they'll go somewhere else, even though there's nowhere else to go.
They'll
They'll
go
get
online.
online. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's not open. He don't need my business. I'll just order it from, you know, and there's a bunch of box chain holsters, that do a good job, but people like that custom touch. Hey, that's a cool colored thread. Can we do that? Yeah.
And then the soft things that we're trying to get our customer to relate to is we're trying to get them to understand that American tan leather has value. Okay. The American craftsman has value. And we've really had a resurgence that in the last few years. We've been blessed with people being kind of tired of the China import product. And so that's benefited us a lot.
When COVID hit is when we started our shop. So we
That
had
was a
played with leather a
brilliant
little
that
bit.
was brilliant timing, right?
Yes. And it was actually my wife, when we got married, she ran a shipping store. So we were one of the few people that were deemed could stay open. So we went to work every day. Well, that allowed the shop to flourish. I mean, we started in the middle of the pandemic, uh, and we've thrived, you know. But what that's caused, being in the pandemic, is it's caused a lot of people to bring all their money back home because they got tired of waiting on boats. You know, when
That
we
were
started looking,
stuck out waiting for months.
when we first started looking at lasers, everybody told me that's fine, buy a laser, you can have it next year, because the boats were 25 miles off the docks and setting. You
Yeah,
know,
and the guys that were bringing them in were paying storage for them to sit there while the government told them they couldn't come in.
that's right. That's right. Every bit of it. And then,
So,
you know, a lot of it is people have finally decided that, yeah, that looks cool online, but some of that from when I was growing up is coming back to where people want to walk into a store and they want to meet their local maker. Because there's places you can go where there's always conversation, and that's your coffee shop, your barber shop, and your saddle shop. And
yes,
everybody
sir.
knows that. You know, I grew up in a saddle shop hanging out.
Yeah, so yeah, when people are there talking, then they're going to see something they want or come up with a brilliant idea. I've had a lot of those, and,
Oh yeah.
and there
Oh
you
yeah.
go. So,
Everybody's ideas.
yep. So now for the guy kind of starting out in leatherwork, not just holsters, but in leatherwork in general, if he can find a good mentor, great. But what are some other things that you found valuable to guide you through your learning process in leatherwork?
I'll tell you, if you don't have a mentor, YouTube.
And how do
I can,
you determine the YouTube video that's actually going to be helpful versus the YouTube video that, well, the guy built his first thing at 10 o'clock that morning and now he's going to be an expert YouTube video? I see a lot of that.
to be honest, I hate to be, it's kind of snobbish, but I check their followers. And I check their followers on multiple sites. You know, Don Gonzalez, he's done more for leatherwork than, you know,
Absolutely.
he's 10 steps past Tandy. And Tandy brought so many people in. You can't take that away from them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they supply a start for hundreds and hundreds of people. But when you're ready to get serious, you know, people like yourself and people like EDC and people like Maker's Leather Supply, they really, when it comes to kits, you know, you guys show us how to do it. And, you know, I've watched your holster building video several times because I'll forget something and be like, well, there it is, dummy, you know, and just refreshers. You got to get out there.
Right. Now, we started on a system with out of Shop Talk Magazine. They own a product called Illume Adelaide. And I think on some of our videos, you'll see their logo and their contact information. And they have a shoot video for 12 hours a day for 3 days in a row. And they break it down, into every single step, similar to a boot camp. So that's another option.
The boot camp was very instrumental. I mean, and it was, God put me there, God and David Peterson, because it was the last minute cancellation. And Dave called me and I can't remember what I was doing. And he said, hey, you want to go to boot camp? And I was like, Dave, I can't afford it. He said, I didn't ask you that. You want to go to boot camp? And I was like, yeah. All right, you're going. I was like, okay. And when I came home from that boot camp, it changed every aspect of my leatherwork, because I'd spent hours on the phone with you and Garrett and Jeff, and every waking moment that we weren't building for the class, them guys were dragging me around, showing me something. It was a lifetime of knowledge quickly.
When you first got there, I remember about 9 o'clock in the morning when we were really working on theory and design, you were kind of white around the eyes and doing it. And I just had to tell you, just relax, calm down, And then we make you draw again and again and again. And I'm not the politically correct type of teacher. So I will point at it and I will say I will not put up with lazy design work. I want good thought out design. But then, and that's where I'm at, more the design school, but then you have J.R. Parker. And I mean, that guy has forgot more about good, solid holsters than most people ever know.
Right. And the way he presents his info that he's given you, he presents it to where anybody can grasp it. Anybody. Because he's made the mistakes. He's done the research. He's got the knowledge. The tools he gave me and Rob, you and him and Parker and Rob, it was just because when I was learning this stuff from Lowell, I wasn't ready, you know. And when I came to your class, I was ready to be a sponge. I was ready to take everything I could as fast as I could to start producing it because I was ready for it. You know, I felt like I'd start paying my dues. You know, I got a lot of struggles out there. You know, I understand the new makers.
Yeah, I mean, these guys that are trying to do it, the newer guys, um, there's a lot of advice out there. I think not just like you said, look at their followers. I go and hop their page and I look at their work.
You bet.
And do I want to build like this fellow builds?
If you're not looking at what they produce, then you're just looking for info. But if you go trace down their, you know, you trace down their work and you say, okay, he's legit on tooling. That's somebody I want to pay attention to. Or I I don't like the way this guy designs. Let me find another guy that I like the way he designs. Because imitation is the best form of respect you can give somebody, you know, by trying to duplicate what they do. But that's when you're beginning. And when I first started drawing patterns, they all look the same. And now I want them, I want some standardization there, but I want them to look different from what the industry's doing, so to speak.
Yep. And
I'm always chasing Andrew. I tell him that.
And on that note too, when we see something really cool and we have a fellow that'll send us a pattern or something, we build that slavishly. We follow it to the millimeter 2 or 3 times. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get in that designer's head. I want to see, why did he put this here? Why did he put that there? And then we start to say, okay, we see how the leather's moving, we see what he's doing, and now we start to put our spin on it, after the fact.
And it's no different than tooling. You got your different areas of tooling: Northwest, Texas style, Sheridan style. Everybody's going to tweak it, but if you don't have the good fundamentals, you don't know if you're making, proper changes.
Yeah, and that's when it gets hard to find the stuff. But I do think that's some of the advantage that we get off of. Love it or hate it, Facebook is the only place you're going to find 40,000 leather workers in one spot, willing to critique or give you ideas or say, look at this guy's stuff, look at this guy's stuff. Jim, you're talking about Northwest style, things of that nature. Well, Jim Linnell literally wrote the book.
Literally.
You can go buy the book. I can't suggest that enough. The Stolmans, what I tell every leather worker that wants to start working in 3 dimensions, is his cases books 1, 2, and 3, and they're designed to be built in order.
I have them back there.
Yep, because they're building blocks.
You can take them books and build a case for anything you should build a case for. I took them books and built my very first gun scabbard based on what they built, and it's fundamentals that they come up with. What was in books wrote 40 years ago, 50.
Absolutely.
It still works. And if you're not buying that knowledge, because there's only so much they're going to give you online in YouTube video, you've got to have your fundamental books to fall back on. I keep holsters around so that I can fall back on something like my mistakes. That's what that wall is back there.
Oh, yeah. So you follow that advice, hang your mistakes up and live with them.
My mistakes, I see them every day.
And what we do too is when I go to a gun show, I will go around to that guy that's buying out the estates, and I'm looking for Bauer Brothers, Humes, these
Bianchi.
older holsters, Bianchi, things of that nature. And a lot of times you can get them for $3 to $15, and there's a couple really unusual ones that I may pay $150, $200 for. But what I'm looking for is I want to look at that history and get into that designer's head to see why was he doing that? What advantage should he get for either the guy that was carrying the firearm uh, to or to a manufacturing process? What was his advantage that he was finding? And I don't think you can do anything better than just get the holster and look at it.
Right. I had a guy recently bring me an old duty carry rig, the full rig, and he brought it to me and just gave it to me, and he's like, "Here you go." And so it's hanging on the wall. And like you said, I want to jump on that and look at it and study it and say, well, why did he do that? What was he thinking? Where did his math come in at? Because I'm not a super math guy, but I know that math never fails you. The dumbest trick that J.R. Parker ever told me is he told me at like 11 o'clock one night on the telephone, and I was struggling to draw a holster, and he said, "Hey, buddy." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "What kind of ruler you got?" I was like, "Well, one of them clear plastic ones." And he's like, "Can you hold that up?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Look at it." I was like, "Okay." And he said, "Now flip it over and look at them other set of numbers." And when I hate to say it, I switched to the metric system for building my holsters. There's no fractions. I like math, but I don't like fractions.
There you go. So the metric system's a fantastic way, and it's also bigger numbers. You're not dealing with fractions all the time. So there's a large contingent of makers that use the metric system, and it's like an inch is 25.6 millimeters, I think, or something like that. And it's so instead of doing one down to a 16th or a 64th or a 42nd, now you're taking 0.26523, and when you use your dial calipers or you use your digital calipers, you absolutely just set it right there and just poke that right on the leather if necessary.
It's flawless every time. When I switched to the metric system as far as my stitching lines and how I built, everything changed. And it was the dumbest little thing, Well, look at the other side of that ruler.
Yeah. And on rulers, something to remember that a lot of people forget is the first tick mark for the one may be that far from the end of the ruler. And you gotta really watch, where does the ruler really start?
I never start with one. I start with two, because two is straight up.
Yep, it's a straight up line, and then you can just take it on. So that's something to remember there. So I think a big takeaway for this is going to be try the metric system. Work with bigger numbers. You may find that you like it.
Work with bigger numbers. Don't be afraid to put your time in and set it a stone, or whatever you want to do. Sit there and really focus. When I first come home from my first boot camp, it's so funny. We just seen it. My very first hot box was a 50-pound feed sack and a hair dryer.
Oh my!
And I would put my holster in there and turn the hair dryer on low and vent the bag periodically with a thermometer in the bag, so that I could have a hot box. But that's as redneck hot box as it comes. It got me to where I was at.
And what a hot box is for, everybody. We gain in strength and rigidity in our holster by drying or curing it very quickly to get that moisture out of it quickly. When it does, it brings with it fats, tallows, fat liquors, things that come out of the holster or out of the leather. You have to buff them off. But what we're doing is really gaining a lot of structure. Now, we'll put up a link. I believe that I've got a little PDF, and it might take me a few days to get a new one out if I need to, of how we build a hot box. And this is really simple. It's a stinking kitchen cabinet from the Restore. And then we put in the ceramic lizard heaters and a little B-Link digital controller and a fan. And that way we can maintain our temperature within 1.5 degrees plus or minus, a little bit of air moving, and we can dry holsters in 2 hours. And it makes a difference, so we're just letting them air dry.
Yeah. And it changed my game, because, when you go from building a holster in a day to building a holster in 5 hours, it changes your time constraints as a production and a custom shop. because I can walk in there in the morning and build 5 or 6 holsters and get them in the hot box.
And have
And then
you,
I can,
what you just said on production, I've been pushing you since day one to a production mentality. Uh,
yes.
and now as you're starting to gain the wholesale market, do you see the advantages there?
Oh yeah. I couldn't believe that selling at a cheaper price, but selling a higher volume was the way to go. But I have a couple knife sheath guys that, he might order 50 knife sheaths a month. He might order 150 knife sheaths, and it changes how you pay your bills. Definitely.
It sure does. It gets all that working, and then you have to be creative with everything you do. When your shop is kind of unique. Did it used to be a fast food drive-in, or was it an automotive shop, or what was it?
It was a car dealership. It was an old car dealership, and then a very dear friend of mine bought it, and they turned it into a plant place. And his wife passed away, and she was a very good woman. And they shut it down, and we were moving shops. We had too much room at our last shop, and he told us, we talked to him, and he rented it to us, and we love it. We hold a flea market here the second weekend of every month. We've got a big area outside where we can host
And some of
vendors
it's
and
under
stuff.
roof.
Yeah, we have 14 awnings so that people can set up under it, and them are like 12 by 20 awnings. So
But your actual space that you do leather work in is
230 square feet.
230 square feet. So that means if I've got a what a 10 by 16 portable
Yeah.
building, that's 160 square feet right there. That's within 70 square feet of being the same thing that you are.
Yes, my tooling desk is not in the back shop where everything happens, but it sits, my tooling desk sits all by itself. But 90% of my work, other than the tooling, goes on in an 11 by 22 area.
Wow. So,
I've got 3 sewing machines, a holster press, a shopsmith.
how do you
I
like
mean,
that shopsmith?
I love it. I
I
love it.
beat you to death about that. Tell everybody what a shopsmith is.
So a shopsmith is an all-in-one tool: sander, saw, jigsaw, lathe, everything. And I use mine for a sander and burnisher.
Right, right. And these were really popular in the 1950s and 1960s. You can find them on Facebook for $150 to
Couple hundred.
$350, you know.
Yeah.
And the real value to it as a sander or a buffer or an edger is it's an infinite speed transmission that you change the speed by twisting a dial at anything from 600 RPM to 3000 RPM because it was a lathe. So this means that you can buff die. You could also, lay the wax to her, and you're getting enough RPM to really melt and drive it in. And when I say wax, guys, I'm not talking about beeswax. Beeswax will never set up in leather. Okay, we use Yankee brand Brilliant Edge wax for shoe and boot sole applications, and I believe it does a good product for us.
Oh yeah. We recently started doing waxed edges, and uh, Peterson came down and I built he had some metal shafts built, and then I wrapped them in canvas and glued them, and uh, we've started waxing, doing the waxed edges. It adds a lot less work to me. If you run your edge down that wax, it takes a lot of work out of that. You don't have to sit around and burnish it for 30 minutes. And
And the thing is 6 months from now, a year from
you
now,
still
it
got to,
looks just as good as the day you put it out. Whereas a
yep.
water burnished edge, 6 months later, looks pretty rough.
Yeah.
You know. So, and this is the difference that you're seeing now is everything we make, guys. The day you make it, the day you send it out the door, it's gorgeous. But you got to really pay attention to exactly what you're doing and what it's going to look like in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And are you, doing something that looks great you see on Facebook and some guy shows, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to be like that guy, right? You haven't seen this project a year from now.
Right. You can be the best builder in the world. And if you're putting more art than functionality, your art's going to wear out.
You've got to balance it.
Yeah. And that's something I struggle with is, when you're tooling, you carve, you typically, you want multiple levels. Well, you're taking away from your structural integrity on your leather. So you have to take that into account when you're doing that. Like we did a duck lanyard this morning, and I pulled out some 10 ounce to carve on because it's heavy.
I saw the font you were using on that. You said Rebecca had found that for you. And this is something that's a big thing. A lot of people have been using the same Tandy letter stamps forever. And in a very few cases, I find that attractive, but it's been so beat to death. I think a huge thing for a custom carver, for a skill for them to gain, is hand carving letter work and having the letters look good.
When I started, I would stamp, and now I won't stamp. If you get your name or your initials or whatever, it's hand cut, it's hand carved, because when you're stamping, you look like a hobbyist. You're elevating yourself to the next level by saying every time I put your name on there, it's going to be hand carved and not stamped. There's only so many fonts.
Now, there's a particular swivel knife that really helps. I believe you've got one there.
Yeah, I have a Henley.
Okay.
I get made fun of because my hands are so big. My Henley is stretched to the max capacity.
Let me get this where you see that. Okay.
But that is also a handmade blade based on Lowell Harvey's points file.
Getting a points file and sharpen it up. I think Andrew sharpened that one up for you initially, didn't he?
He made this one for me. I come across some points files and I was like, hey, if you'll make these, I'll supply you and Dave with one. And he come back with them. But he makes fun of me because, my swivel, he tells me I got gorilla hands, but.
There's a lot of gorilla in you, sir. I was saying.
Well, people don't understand when they hear me on the phone. They don't think that I'm 6'3", 300.
Yeah. Do you have one of Mr. Watts' swivel knives as well?
Oh, I do. I have a yokeless.
Now, hold that in the middle so you can see both ends, and talk about that for just a little bit and what it does.
So what that does is, in traditional carving, your finger turns, as you can see that action. This is what turns.
You're turning the swivel knife. In this knife, you don't
turn
do that.
The swivel knife. On this one, the swivel knife, the blade turns itself.
It follows you.
Basically, it's like writing with a pencil. If you can write with a pencil, you can use Dwayne Watt's swivel knife.
Now, I sat across from him at the iFlog where we were there last year down in
we
Dallas.
were. Super nice guy.
He's a wonderful fella, and he will show you some really cool things. Another thing that I really like of his is he has those little brass lollipops for heating the edge.
Yes.
I'm getting me one of them.
I've been wanting one too. I've been wanting one myself.
I think that swivel knife for a guy that's going to be carving in initials and things like that, I really think that's just, and for doing swivel knife finesse work where you're just doing knife work, that's another thing too. I think you can bring a lot. So if you're looking at a carry belt, if you just go in and nothing on the front, but you do a little swivel knife finesse on the back of that belt, that brings a lot to the table. Even if people can't see it from the outside, them gals that go to Victoria's Secret and buy stuff ain't showing everybody what they bought. They're buying it because it makes it's nice and it's a very personal bit of decoration. And I think you could do that on a belt too.
We swivel cut a lot of personal things on the insides of belts. If they're gifts or memorial belts, this was like my dad's. Can you put his birthday? And we do a lot of that. And 99% of the people will never know it's there, but the person that bought the belt knows it's there. And that's who it matters to. If your customer's not happy, and that's what I tell people, I want you to leave with exactly what was in your mind is in your hands. Not
Nope.
kinda,
Right.
but that's what I want.
We sent a lot of holsters overseas during the Middle East conflicts and the wars that we had. And I can't tell you how many mothers came and bought a holster so that their son would have it or their daughter would have it. And in between the layers of the leather on the wings, we would take and they would have us write a note there. We're gluing that leather together and stitching it together. But it may have been a mother's prayer that she wanted there for, the person she was getting the holster for. And it means a lot to people.
Right. I scribe a lot right here on I'm at a loss for
your reinforcement, your back reinforcement.
Yeah, on my sweat shield. A lot of people, I'll put little sayings. MBK, my brother's keeper. I do that quite a bit for people when they purchase stuff because
and nobody's ever going to see it because you're gluing it together, you're stitching it together, but they know in their heart that it's there. And that is a huge selling point.
Yeah, because you're making it's a production standpoint with a heartfelt message, because we're doing quite a few holsters these days. Like right now I have 2 shoulder rigs, 2 chest rigs, 2 Avengers, and 2 pocket holsters I'm working on this week. So
wow.
With that being said, people want them little extra touches. So I make notes everywhere for little stuff like that.
Yep. And so we covered that. Now, we've been supplying to you for quite a while. Can everybody know where we've been able to help you at? And then maybe tell me where there's some things we can do to do a better job for you.
So you're the only place I'll get my blue guns, a lot of my leather, and most all of my hardware. Some of my little hardware shops here in town, we have one, and I'll get some screws and stuff from them. But you guys have been tremendous. Stitch traces.
That's actually something we've never brought up, I don't think, in one of these podcasts.
Stitch traces are it saved my life so many times. If you'll look in the background, there's stitch traces laying there. I've already drawn the holster on, and I can just pull that out, go to the next step, and it's done. I don't have to worry about, are them lines right? I don't have to spend the 30 minutes sitting down doing all the math, all the homework. I can just draw my pattern, set it there, and know when I start the process, it's going to be finished.
And a stitch trace is not a holster design. We're not taking anything from the holster designer at all. All we're doing, and I'll bring that up there. Hang on. I don't know if it's going to show or not. All we're doing here, guys, is having the outline of the firearm with the proper stitch line. It's up to you to draw the holster as it should be. So it is something you can print again and again and again. So that's great. I'm glad that you find that a useful tool, brother.
It's been one of my most useful tools. If you look back there, you can't see it for all them order baskets. There's a filing cabinet, and it's one of them giant, like you'd see in a doctor's office. And one whole drawer is nothing but stitch traces I buy, holster patterns I've built, so that I can fall back on and see how I've grown, moved. Because I build so many, I don't throw my patterns away. I trace them out onto a manila file folder through my process, so I have each individual piece to that holster build every time to fall back on.
I got something to show you. I want to make you want me to make you feel bad. Jake, hand me these couple here. Now
Are you reusing? I seen them.
Look here, huh?
EDC, I seen it.
Yeah. Oh, I got to put the right deal.
I got some in the back.
You can't have that.
I've
And
got some in the back. I have that one.
oh, but look inside of it. That's in the mold.
Oh, that's yeah. The
That
Spartan.
there, that stands proud. I don't know if you
Yeah,
see that.
you can faintly see it. I like it though.
Here's the new lines we were telling you about.
Them look
But
good.
let me see. Is that wood for the EDC?
Oh
That's
yeah,
carved in.
yeah. That's going to be nice.
And I talked to our wood guy, and he said that he would make this kind of stuff for y'all too.
You know me. I like to have my name on it.
On everything.
Everything. Well, and when you're growing up, my grandfather instilled in me uh, have good tools and have a way of identifying them. And when I first started coming through, I had 4 notches on my tools. That was my mark. It was in this. Nobody could take it. So when I started buying leather tools, if they're custom, I want my name on it. You know, any of the acrylics I got, they all have my name on it. To the right of me is a wall covered in orange plastic.
Yeah. Speaking of that, maker's marks. Give me your thoughts and opinions on a maker's mark and when you put it and when is it okay? Because we see that a lot as a discussion on the different social medias. People get pretty passionate about it. I'd just like to hear your opinion.
Well, when I first started, I'll tell you, I only got a maker's mark about a year ago, and it was made for me. It's a piece of Delrin, uh, and there's so many people that go out and they spend $150 at Tandy, and they buy their tools, and they're a leather shop, and then they run out and they call Texas Custom Dyes and they have them a maker's mark made, and it kind of shied me away from having a maker's mark for a long time because I don't know. But I think a maker's mark should be put on anything custom. Uh, if you're doing production, like my production holsters, they get a different maker's mark that's just my ass and my swivel knife so that I can see it and they can see it, but it's not the full Sandbar Leather Company huge logo. It's it's my it's my S bar, and that's how
Okay.
I've always marked my holsters.
So,
But I think
uh,
if you're gonna build something custom, you mark it.
okay. Absolutely. Like I said, everybody's got an opinion. A lot of guys are pretty passionate about it. For example, for us, we probably have more maker's marks in our shop than most because when we do, when you have a 50 holster big run, you know, you'll be
Yeah,
calling me and we'll be punching out 50 holsters for you. We put your mark on them, you
yeah,
know, and then we build your holster to your specifications the way you want it. So to us, uh, as a job shop, in a wholesale shop, we build for other companies and we put whatever they want on it.
yeah. Well,
It's an interesting way to do because we're working with really cool designs of other people's IP. We have to really
yeah.
keep that separated. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Well, see, on our wholesale work, uh, I don't put a maker's mark on any of my wholesale work because I want my customer who's reselling it or giving it away, like knife sheaths go with a knife. If they don't want my maker's mark on there, I don't give them, I just don't put it on there so that they can resell it if they choose. Because once they've bought it, it's theirs. And,
Right. And we have a couple of little gun shops that we put their logo, as a maker's mark on their holsters, and some of them really don't care. But it's an interesting conversation to come up. So what I want to cover again is hold up that knife sheath again. All right, I'm saying we need at least 10 comments. This, when Saturday morning comes out, by next Saturday morning, Danny Ray, it's your responsibility to go get the names from all the comments. Okay.
I will.
Draw it out of a hat and then put it as a comment back as a reply to whoever did that.
You bet. You bet.
And then let me know what it is, and I'll pay the shipping. We'll do a priority mail, and we'll give away your knife sheath.
Right. It's actually cheaper for me to ship it, George. I use Pirate Ship.
I'll give you the money. But that's a good point. Shipping companies, we use ShipStation, you use Pirate Ship, always get you a better price than just trying to go to stamps.com.
Right. If you get on Pirate Ship, you give it your measurements and your weight, and you type in an address, they'll give you UPS, FedEx, and USPS rates, and you just choose the one you want. And
absolutely.
They beat USPS prices
every day.
If you'll go every day. Every day. It's how we save money. I can ship pretty much anything if it's under £1 for under $8.
Yeah. Anywhere in the lower 48.
Anywhere.
So fantastic. Danny, man, I had a ball this morning.
Us too.
And glad to get a chance to see some of that stuff. Really enjoyed that first holster, your Hobby Lobby leather.
Straight out of the belly. You got to love it.
Yeah, man, I love the work that you're doing now. I love your belts. That carving is it's sweet. Real quick, a carved belt from you, is it by the inch or is it just a belt?
It's by the inch. It's by the inch. I sat down with a mechanic friend of mine, and I was having problems pricing. That's a big debate in the leather world is, how do I price my work? It's materials times 2
by some random ass number.
Yeah.
On pricing, boy, we see this all the time. And what have I always told you? So you got the formula. Let's hear the formula that everybody gives out.
Oh yeah, it's your materials times 2 divided by your hourly wage that you want. All that's fine if you can get that to pay your bills.
And also, it's like on that gun belt right there, okay?
Yeah.
And some guy's trying to hand stitch it, and he's trying to line it, and he's got 4.5, 5 hours in it. Now,
it's not worth its time.
Garrett builds probably close to 1,000 of those a year right now. And Garrett can be in and out of that belt in less than 19 minutes of hands-on time. So I asked that guy that took 5 or 6 hours, I said, do you think you're building a better belt than that guy?
Right. So my mechanic friend, his wife is an artist, and she paints. She paints this beautiful artwork, and it's covered in epoxy. And she charges by the inch. And we sit down, and we came up with a belt price, because I was shooting from the hip. And we all know where that goes. That costs you money. That's just the truth.
So where did your reinforced... Oh, no, you're talking the carved belt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
is that
belt.
The full length of the belt or just the length of the carving, or what is it? Do you have a base price for the belt?
Carving.
All right, so I have a base price of the belt, and then I have the carving, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you get a double layered belt, they're like $75. If you get a double layered reinforced gun belt, they're $100. If you get a fully tooled belt, I charge $6 an inch for the carving. Okay. Because what people don't understand is you draw the line, you trace the line with your swivel knife, and then you work each line with every tool that it takes. I might touch that line 8 times, So we came up with a formula by the inch. We took a belt that I'd tooled, and then we took what I charged for it and rounded to the nearest dollar.
And it works.
It works perfectly.
Fantastic. And the next thing is, back to that formula. And I've told you this before. Who is the only person that cares about what somebody makes an hour?
Me.
An employee.
That's right.
Employees care about what they make an hour. Business owners only care about their cash flow, their profits coming in, and are they happy with what they have left? Okay?
Right.
So employees, this whole formula of what you want to make an hour is an employee bit mindset, not a business owner mindset.
Right. You have to sit down and you need to figure out exactly how much money it costs you to open the doors from your daily hours. What's your internet? What's your rent? What's your water? What's your electricity? What's your gas to get there?
And that's your
You need to
shop
know what it
costs.
takes.
Jake
Yes.
has that broken down by the minute for us. What
Yeah.
it costs to have the door open by the minute. And then as we're going through and we've already developed a product, we've decided this is a good product. When we make it and we sell it, we're happy with what's left. Okay. So we've already decided it's a good product. And so now he's going to go and try to prove whether we should be happy or not. Is it really a good product? And when I say that we spend 21 minutes, 21 to 27 minutes on a holster, that's hands-on time, because when that holster's in that hot box drying, I don't care about it. It means nothing to me.
Yeah, because you're on to the next holster.
Right, and like when you're doing knife sheaths, you're doing what, 25 rounds of 25 or rounds of 50, where you go through every step, 50 at a time?
We try to break them off into 25 or 50. If it's one sheath, I'll break it into 50, because it gets pretty daunting. If you look down and you go, I have 150 knife sheaths that are all the same.
Right. And you may touch that knife sheath 3 days in a row, maybe, but you've only done it for a couple minutes each time.
Right. It takes you 5 minutes to sew one, and it takes you 5 minutes to tool one. Figuratively, you don't have near the time that you think you do in it. I tell people I can build a holster in 6 hours, but
that includes dry time and cure time.
Yeah, they don't understand that. And then I tell them, yes, I can build you a holster in 6 hours. If you come to me tomorrow, first thing, and you want a holster, I'll have it done before I go home. But you're going to pay for me stopping everything to dedicate.
Yes.
And
every once in a while you find that fella.
I had a fella like that the other day. She said, I need a holster for my husband. His birthday's Tuesday. I said, can you bring me the gun? And it was a Baby Eagle. And she brought it. I met her on a Saturday. Tuesday afternoon, she had her holster. I worked on it Monday. I shut the shop down. I did that holster.
But she paid for you to shut that shop down to do that holster.
You bet.
And her husband was thrilled, I hope.
It fit like a glove.
Fantastic. That's awesome, brother. Well,
people need to understand that too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, leather's leather, and a lot of times, depending on your body shape, you're going to have to stretch the holster a little bit, but when that guy gets that custom rig in, it's not just putting on the thread or the dye or anything of that nature. They are buying thousands of holsters of experience that you have, and every mistake that you have, that you've made, in order to master your craft. And that's what they're buying. They're buying a little bit of our soul, man.
Well, and that's what Dusty said is, Dusty or Lowell, I call him Dusty. I get that. Now they're at some point, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to my customers. At some point, your customers start paying you for your knowledge.
Yes.
And they're paying you to grow your knowledge.
Remember the old story of the fellow that said, you're paying me to know where to hit this thing with a hammer.
That's right. Just because I can do it in 6 hours doesn't mean, I didn't burn a lot of candles down trying to get to that point. I tell people nobody works harder than me, because I made a lot of money for a lot of people working for them. So now I'm going to give that much to myself and to my family.
That's a real good point. When you're working for the other fella, you're making them a lot of money. When you start working for yourself, don't settle for what that fellow is willing to pay you.
That's right.
But now your skill has to deserve that. Your skill level needs to be that level.
Yeah, and I tell people this, and it's words of wisdom I've lived by. And because I asked that question is how do you price? So what I would tell anybody that decided they wanted to do leather work is you go out and you scour all the information you can scour and you find somebody's work that looks like yours. And then you see, are they in my area? Do they have an area that's like mine? And if you'll be honest with yourself and your abilities, you set your prices kind of like you can base your prices off of them and what they did and things like that. But the problem is a lot of people are not honest with themselves and their abilities. You know, you got a guy that's on his fourth holster and he's still buying bellies from Hobby Lobby and he wants to charge you $85. First, you know, hand stitching's an art. I learned that the hard way. And I still offer it. It's a premium now. You told me that. Always stay brushed up on your hand stitching.
Right. There's absolutely that client that wants that level of personal attention.
Right.
And a good hand stitcher can do that.
That's a debate. Everybody says, well, I prefer hand stitching, it's stronger. Hand stitching is just, it's an add-on, but everybody says that. Well, I prefer hand stitching. You prefer hand stitching because you don't have a machine.
That's right.
That's what you prefer.
But what did I tell you about a machine? As a holster designer, if you're designing and learning how to design and create holsters, if you don't have a sewing machine, you're doomed.
Yeah.
Because you're turning what should be a 5-minute fast prototype into hours and hours of work. And when I say you're doomed, guys, don't take this the wrong way. But I do see a lot of people, and you know, because we hop the social media sites, and they try to tell you the sign of a master is somebody who knows how to hide their mistakes. That, gentlemen and ladies, is a sign of an unethical worker that's willing to make a mistake and still hand it off to you. That's what it is. And if you just put hours and hours into hand sewing something, and it can take you a lot of time, and it's beautiful, but you make a goof at the end, it takes a little bit of your soul out, man. You're like, man, I've got hours into this, and it breaks your heart. Remember to keep stitching what it is based on the project. But on a retention style holster, you are gluing and compacting the leather together. You're doing a perimeter stitch so it doesn't delaminate. Not strength. It's going to hold. It's okay. So you need to be able to do it quickly enough that you can afford that when you do make a mistake to take that thing and look behind Danny on the wall and hang that up on the wall. It does not go out. And that is a sign of a master, is someone that's willing to say, I will not ship out shoddy work.
That's right.
Sorry, I got on my high horse because it makes me mad.
Well, it does me too, you know, because so many people want to have that argument. Well, hand stitching's better. Well, machine stitching's better. Look, if you're building 2 projects a week, you don't need a $3,500 Cobra Class 4. If you're kicking out 20 items a week and, you know, on a slow week, you need to be looking for a stitcher. I opened our shop to the public in August. In October, I had my first sewing machine on the way from a leather auction because I was tired of hand stitching.
You learned.
Yeah.
But there are absolutely, we make a wallet, sells for $69. Put it on our little Singer. We stitch that thing up, you know, with 99 thread and 69 on the back, you know, glued up and put together. Okay, it sells for $69. That's about what it's worth. But now the fellow that wants to come to you and buy a Shell Cordovan wallet, he's in it for $450. He's not interested in my little machine sewing. That guy wants 7 twists left, linen, hand stitched. He wants it beautiful. He has an expectation of fit and finish that matches the price in the leather that he's using. And that's why I told you never lose that ability to do a beautiful hand stitch.
And a beautiful hand stitch is learning how to slow down, learning how to pay attention. Art Allen, makes some of the best hand stitch I've seen. I've read he's got a tutorial. It's in the holsters for handguns index, I think, isn't it?
I believe it is, and we'll holler at Art to see if we can put it out. But I mean, that guy was hand stitching while going down the road when his wife was having to go to the doctor's. He'd make her drive.
Yeah, we're talking
and
about a
he's
guy
sitting there stitching, going down the highway at 75 miles an hour.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy that's hand stitching 50 holsters a week.
I think he actually did 37 holsters in 1 week, hand stitched, and 2 belts.
Yeah, which I'm not going to hand stitch 10 if I don't have to. I invested in a machine for that reason. But it changes your designs too, and I didn't know that. There's things you can get away with when you're hand stitching that you can't get away with on a machine.
Absolutely.
And it will change. If you show me somebody that hand stitches everything, I'll show you how his holster looks different than mine because he can do different things.
And it is perfectly viable. I see no advantage one way or the other in a holster. As a craftsperson and as a designer, for a lot of people, the stitching is absolutely part of the design.
Right.
Your thread color, your thread choices. That's actually part of the design. The guys that do double stitching a lot of times, what's his name? There's a fellow on the East Coast, Jason. Anyway, Bullman Leather. Okay, when that guy does a double stitch line, and you see it, you're wondering why everybody can't be that guy. And until I try to do it, and I realize I'm not him. I think I'll stick with a single stitch line.
Right. Well, see, and like the elephant holster I showed you, it's my personal holster, and there's something about that green thread, man. I wanted as much of that, but if you're not doing a proper double stitch line, it looks terrible.
Before we go, one point on that every leather worker, especially us rednecks down in in the South, that we make, okay? And that is, you make something, it's not quite right. You're not going to send it to your customer. That's unethical. But you say, you know what? It'll do the job. I think I'm going to use it. And that's what you used to do too, didn't you, Danny?
Yeah. And people don't understand that it's okay for me to carry something that I've built that I wasn't happy with because I built it. There's a difference.
And there you go. And now here's the real deal. What did I tell you that you should be carrying? You should be carrying the absolute best product you buy that you build. And the reason why is when a guy says, "Oh man, I hear you do holsters. Can you show me one?" You don't want to be holding up going, well, don't look at this and don't look at that. So I beat you about the head and shoulders till I got you carrying the absolute finest thing that you can make because you are the catalog.
You and Rebecca, because I carried an Andrew Kalis holster, and people would say, "Man, that's a beautiful holster," which he didn't like it. It was camo. He gave it to me. And I carried it. Did you make that? No, but I can make you one just like it. And about 20 times of that, I put that holster down. I love it.
But you need to wear what you make, and it needs to be your best efforts.
That's right. I'm wearing a duty belt right now that I built in a custom camo. It's mahogany and black. And then I carry an elephant, fancy thread, fancy camo, everything I could throw at that. And I get people go, "That's not my speed." It's not your speed, but it's the best of everything that I do. So
now
that's
you
why
decide which one is going to be, to what level you want to do. Well, Danny, this has been a ball, man. I have had a hoot.
It's been great.
And looking forward to seeing more of your stuff. We're going to get this one up. When people get to commenting, then you take care of getting all that done. You sit there and you do your pirate ship. Let me know what it costs. I'll pay for the shipping. We want to get it out to somebody. And now you got to build another one of those to give away for your shop.
You bet. George, it's been fun. Thanks for having us. Just so people know, EDC Leather and the guys out there and the guys that they can network you to, You know, it's a one-stop shop. It's not just what I got from edcleather.com. It's the knowledge and the people that they can put you in contact with. You know,
We've been blessed by a lot of wonderful makers, man.
you bet. And I'm gonna, you know, I get the honor of being that guy to some people. You know, you guys put me in touch with a lot of people. It's invaluable of what the network we have going now. So
Yes, sir.
anybody that needs to know, hit George up. He'll find you some help.
We'll find somebody. All right, brother. Love you guys much. Be good. Tell Becca hi,
You
and
bet.
I'm looking forward to cake the next time she's up.
You bet.
Bye, buddy.
Y'all be safe. We love y'all.